In a remote village in Nigeria, surrounded by tall hills and flowing rivers, there lived a girl named Abeni. Abeni is a name mostly chosen by parents that have waited for the fruit of the womb for many years. The good news of getting a child from God makes them name their child Abeni as a constant reminder. Abeni means we asked and begged the gods for her and she came. It also makes them see children like this as special gifts to their families and the whole village, as was the story of Abeni in her village. Abeni's smile was as bright as the stars and her voice was as gentle as the river. Everyone in the village loved her and she made her people proud. But one fateful night, beneath the same moon that once watched over her like a guardian, Abeni's life changed forever. She was alone in the woods gathering herbs for her sick grandmother when a shadow emerged from the trees. It was a man from the neighboring village, a man known for his strength and power, but in that moment, his strength was not a shield, it was a weapon. He forced himself upon Abeni, taking from her what could never be returned. The forest, which had once sung with the melodies of birds, fell silent. Abeni returned home, her body broken and her heart scarred. The village elders were horrified by the crime, but many whispered behind closed doors, "Who will marry her now?" they asked. "Her purity is lost." The men responsible fled, and with him the whispers grew louder. Weeks passed and Abeni realized she was heavy with a child. Her father, a kind man with fame and loving eyes, stood by her side. "Abeni," he said, "you are not to blame for what happened. This child is innocent just as you are. He will grow and so will you. We will protect you both." But not everyone in the village shared his wisdom. Some turned their backs on Abeni, casting her into the shadow of their judgments. She was no longer the village's shining star. She was now, in their eyes, a tainted woman. Abeni carried her child in silence, her heart heavy but her resolve strong. She gave birth to a boy and named him Oluwatobi, meaning God is the highest. From the moment Oluwatobi entered the world, there was something extraordinary about him. His cries were not of sorrow but of strength, as though he had come into the world knowing he had the destiny to fulfill. Oluwatobi grew quickly, and with each passing year, it became clear that he was no ordinary boy. Just like his mother, Oluwatobi's voice was a gift from the heavens. He could sing melodies that made even the trees sway with the rhythm, and the birds would fall silent to listen. But the village still whispered, "The boy of the cursed woman," they said. "He will never be more than a reminder of our shame." But Oluwatobi did not listen to their words. He had inherited his mother's resilience, and Abeni, despite the pain she carried, raised her son to be proud of who he was. She taught him the power of forgiveness, but she also taught him that evil should never go unpunished. One day, when Oluwatobi was just 14, a music producer from the city came to the village. He had heard stories about the village boy with a melodious voice, so loud and strong it was said to be as powerful as the roar of a lion, and he wanted to take him to the city. Abeni was reluctant to this offer. The city is far and the world is full of dangers. She said to herself secretly, "Oluwatobi being here today is a result of the danger in the world, but the gods of my fathers have turned this sorrow into joy. I'm not about to lose my son to other unknown dangers in the city," she murmured to herself. But Oluwatobi was determined. "Mother," he said, "I was born from pain, but I will not live in its shadows. I will go and I will return as a man who makes you proud." With a heavy heart, Abeni let him go. Oluwatobi left the village, but not without the promise that he would return to right the wrongs done to his mother and others like her. Years passed and Oluwatobi's fame grew. His songs echoed across the nation, and his story, the story of a boy from tragedy but who rose to greatness, became an inspiration to all who heard it. He sang of love, of resilience, and most of all, of justice. His voice, like a lion's roar, demanded that the world listen. 8 years have passed since Oluwatobi left the village and gradually growing his talent and music career. One day, as he stood on the stage of his grand stadium, Oluwatobi paused before his final song. The crowd in their thousands fell silent. "This song," he said, "is for my mother, Abeni. She was hurt by a man who should have protected her, but she never let that pain define her. She is stronger than anyone I could ever imagine." The stadium erupted in applause, but Oluwatobi wasn't finished. "I sing for all the women like my mother who have been wronged by men who think they are above the law. To those men I say this, your time will come. The world is watching, and justice will find you." As the final note of his song hung in the air, something incredible happened. From the back of the stadium, a group of women stood. One by one, they stepped forward, revealing their stories of pain and survival. They were not ashamed. They were proud. They were survivors. Word spread quickly to the village of Oluwatobi's triumph, and soon he returned home, no longer as a boy but a man. This time, the villagers did not whisper. They cheered for him, for Abeni, and for all the women who had been wronged. Years passed after Oluwatobi's triumphant return from the city. His music had brought healing to his village, and his voice, strong as a lion's roar, had inspired many to stand up for what was right. But even as the village rejoiced in his success, not all the wounds from the past had been healed. The man who had violated Abeni, Oluwatobi's mother, was never found. He had vanished into the shadows, leaving behind only pain and unanswered questions. Though Oluwatobi's rise to fame had silenced the whispers that once followed Abeni, it could not erase the scars of the past. Yet life continued. The village thrived, and Oluwatobi's music grew louder, traveling beyond the borders of Nigeria to the far corners of the continent. His songs spoke of resilience, of hope, and of justice. He had become more than a singer, he was now a voice for the voiceless. But as time passed, the unthinkable happened again. One day, a young girl named Kemi, barely 16, was found sobbing in the village square. Her clothes were torn, and her eyes were filled with tears. She had been attacked and violated by a man in the night, just as Abeni had been many years before. The villagers were horrified. Old memories resurfaced, and the women of the village, especially Abeni, felt the weight of their past traumas returning. The men whispered again, just as they had done with Abeni, "Who will marry her now?" Some muttered. But Oluwatobi, now a man of great influence and power, heard those whispers and felt anger rise within him. He remembered the promise he had made to his mother, that no woman would ever suffer in silence again in his presence. He remembered how justice had been delayed for Abeni and how the man responsible had escaped without punishment. This time, he swore it would be different. Oluwatobi had returned to the village with a heart full of purpose. He went straight to the elders, demanding that something be done for Kemi. "We cannot allow this evil to go unpunished," he said, his voice thundering like a warrior ready for battle. The elders were reluctant. "These matters are delicate," they said. "We have no proof of who did this terrible thing. What can we do?" But Oluwatobi would not accept their excuses. "I will find the proof," he said. "I will make sure the man who did this is brought to justice." He left the village the next morning and went to the city, where he used his fame and influence to gather a team of investigators. With their help, he returned to the village and began to uncover the truth. For days, he and his team spoke to Kemi and the people who had seen her the night of the attack. They combed through every detail, leaving no stone unturned. Finally, they found the man who had assaulted her. He was a villager who had lived among them, hiding in plain sight. When he was confronted with the evidence, he confessed to his crime. Oluwatobi ensured he was taken to the city, where the man was tried and sentenced to many years of labor in prison. The village was shocked and surprised. They had never seen someone take such a bold step to ensure justice was served. But Oluwatobi was not done. The success of bringing Kemi's attackers to justice fueled something deeper within him. He remembered the countless stories of other girls and women in their village and neighboring villages, stories that had been buried in shame and fear. These women had suffered in silence, just like his mother, Abeni. If my mother's story is past and forgotten, Oluwatobi thought to himself, I will make sure the stories of other young girls in this village is different. And so, Oluwatobi launched a crusade against the evil that had taken over his village for far too long. He worked tirelessly with the police from the city and with the village elders to investigate old cases of sexual assault. They went door to door, speaking to women who had long carried the burden of silence. Their stories came pouring out one by one. Women who had been too afraid to speak found their voices. Some of the elders were ashamed of their earlier inactions, and they joined forces with the investigator and police from the city this period. Together, they investigated these cases thoroughly, leaving no room for doubt or denial. Many young and old men were brought to justice. Some had committed crimes years ago, thinking they would never face consequences. But Oluwatobi made sure they were all held accountable. He ensured they were taken to the city where they were tried and sentenced. The village had never seen anything like this before. For generations, crimes like these had been swept under the mat, dismissed with words like shameful secrets are best forgotten. But now, with Oluwatobi leading the charge, everything changed. The once silenced voices of women were now being heard, and their stories were no longer met with whispers of shame, but with support and action. Rapists were no longer able to hide. They were exposed, shamed, and punished. And Oluwatobi became a hero once again, not just for his music, but for his unwavering commitment to justice. His fame grew even larger after these actions. People across the country admired him not only for his talent, but for his courage. He became a symbol of hope and change, a man who used his influence to protect the vulnerable and uplift the oppressed. As time passed, Oluwatobi continued his music career, but now his songs carried a deeper message. He sang not only of love and life, but of justice and the forgotten. He told the stories of women like his mother, Abeni, and young girls like Kemi, stories of resilience and strength. In his lyrics, he calls out those who use their power to harm others and demands that society holds them accountable. His voice became a rallying cry for a new generation that will not allow evil to thrive in silence. And the village was transformed as well. The once hidden crimes were now out in the open, and people knew that they could no longer ignore them. Oluwatobi's actions had taught them that the shame did not belong to the victim, but to the rapist. As for Abeni, she was no longer just the mother of a son born from tragedy. She became a symbol of resilience, a woman who had been hurt but had never let that hurt define her. The villagers who once whispered behind her back now honored her as the woman who had raised a lion, a son whose voice had changed their lives. Oluwatobi stood beside his mother and said, "To all the women of virtue who stood so tall like Abeni in the face of stigmatization, may your courage increase. For the ones who were buried in the shadow of their previous glory because of the evil done to you, may you find strength. Rape is a crime that should never be silenced, and the rapist must bear the shame, not the victim. The women who survive such atrocities are not broken, they are warriors. It is the duty of every society to protect, uplift, and honor them, for they are the mothers, sisters, and daughters who shape our world." As the story of Abeni and Oluwatobi was passed down to children in the village, it carried with it the weight of their journey and the hope for a future where justice reigns, and no woman is stigmatized for the action of her abuser. The moral of the story: Oluwatobi's journey was a lesson for all. It taught that rape is not a shame for the victim to bear, but a crime that the rapist must answer for. It showed the power of speaking out and of demanding justice even when the world tries to silence you. Through his music and his actions, Oluwatobi showed that justice is not just a dream, it is something that can be achieved if people are willing to stand up, to speak out, and to never let evil go unpunished. And so, his legacy continued not just as a singer, but as a warrior for justice. I hope you enjoyed this episode of our Folktale series. See you in the next one.